Hello once again, I'm Greg. Welcome back to my channel, Midnight Oil Software, where I talk about digital art and game development in Unity. If you haven't already, and if you don't mind, please click that like and subscribe button. And if you do subscribe, drop me a comment and let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to that as soon as I can. And see if there's anything in particular you'd like to see, if you'd like short tutorials or more live streams like this one, maybe more in-depth tutorials. More drawing, whatever it is that you think you would like to see. I want to make sure that this content is as beneficial to as many people as possible. So in my previous stream, I began the process of getting my Moon Patrol minigame ready to be published to the Apple App Store. I added mobile controls, so I have a thumbstick control now, and I also began trying to show you how I would deploy it to the Apple App Store, and I ran into an issue in that stream because my credentials had expired on the Apple App Store. So I've already fixed that particular issue, so I'm going to show you how I would just normally, every time I do a release, how I would push it. But then I also thought it would be really useful for people who don't have a Mac especially and want to publish to the Apple App Store to see the process for creating the certificates, for signing your application, for building it for iOS, and then uploading it to the Apple App Store without a Mac. Because Apple really prefers you to have a Mac and to use Xcode, but you don't have to. So I'm going to show you how I do it without a Mac. But first of all, there was a step I forgot yesterday. Whenever I'm pushing a new iOS version, I need to go into my build settings and pull this over here, and I need to update my version number. I have to do this, or the app uploader that I use to upload it to the Apple App Store will not submit the build. And I've gone through this where I've checked in my changes, I've run the Unity Cloud build, I pulled down the build, and then I tried to use the Apple App Loader to upload the app, and it tells me that a build with that version already exists, and it won't upload it for me. So all I do is I go into my build settings, and I increment my version number and my build number. And I probably should start the build number over with each major version, but I've just been incrementing the build number every time. So as you can see, this is a 25th build that I have pushed to the Apple App Store. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And if I go back to my folder here and I do a commit updated build number, commit and push. And so this is pushing it through Git up to the VSTS repository that I use for my project. Now, let's see, I thought I had... Okay, yeah, so here is my repo up on VSTS. And you can see it says I've updated the iOS Moon Patrol update branch just now. So I'm going to create a pull request. I'm going to make sure I select iOS release. And I'm just going to create a PR. And I'm going to complete it. And this will merge those changes into my iOS release branch. And that's what I do all my builds for iOS. So now, I want to go into the Unity Cloud build here, and I have my Ninja Eggs iOS build and under DevOps, and I'm going to show you from scratch how you would create an iOS app in Unity Cloud build. But for now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my build history, and I'm going to tell it to build default iOS. Now, I already did one yesterday, and because it's going to take more than 10 minutes to build this. So I just want to show you how I initiate the build and then what you do after it builds. So if I say build default iOS, And I'm actually going to have to wait for that to finish anyway, because I just realized I updated the build version and I won't be able to do anything with this build anyway. So while that's building, I guess I'll start taking you through the process of how I prepare things to be deployed to iOS. So in my development environment, I've got this little deployment steps text file that I've created. So like the first thing I did, I updated the version number. I committed those changes to source control. I've initiated a cloud build. When that finishes, I will download the build, and then I will run a third-party app that I use to upload the build to the Apple App Store. And then I'll have to go into the App Store Connect, and I'll have to actually create a new release for my app and select that build. And this takes a while to be approved by Apple, so I wouldn't probably be able to do that today during this live stream. And then I can move my release through various test phases. So I can have internal testing, I can have external testing, I can have open testing, where anybody with, I can invite people to test flight to test it. And then when I'm all satisfied that there's no bugs and that it's ready to go, I can actually promote it to release. But first, let me show you what's involved in creating an app on the Apple App Store. First of all, you have to get an Apple developer account, and that costs money. It's not free. I think it's like $100 a year, but that's beyond the scope of this stream. But you would just go to developer.apple.com. Developer.apple.com. You would create an account there, and then you'll be able to do all this process that I'm going to describe here. But what you need to do in order to sign an app for the Apple App Store is, and you don't have a Mac, is you need to download OpenSSL. And I've got a link here, and I'm going to put all this in the description after this stream is done. In fact, I think I'm going to create a web page with screenshots and everything to really show you how to walk through this process. But you need to download and install OpenSSL, and I add that to my system path, so I can just type OpenSSL, and it will find it and run it. So you need to create a key file, and then from that key file, you need to create a .csr file. It is a certificate signing request file. Now, I actually created a batch file in here. I called it create csr.bat, and if we look at that batch file, I just run that OpenSSL command, and I take the first parameter I pass in, and that's going to be my key file name. And then when that completes, I run OpenSSL again with a new set of parameters, and I'm basically telling it to take that key file and output a .csr file. So this second parameter will be my CSR file name. So if you want to see how that works, I'll say my test2.key, my test2.csr, and that ran. And if I go look now, you'll see there's my test2.key and my test2.csr. So I basically ran those two commands from that batch file, which is these steps here for creating provisioning credentials. So I downloaded and installed OpenSSL, I generated a key file, and I created a CSR file. Now I need to go to my Apple developer portal and create a distribution certificate. So I've already got my developer portal open. I'm logged in here. And if I switch back to this, I need to click certificates, IDs, and profiles on the left pane. And then I need to add a certificate. I need to select Apple distribution from the list. And then I need to browse to the CSR file that I created and then click continue. And that will create a .cer file, which I can then download. So let's walk through that whole process together here. So certificates, IDs, and profiles, plus I want iOS distribution. So you can create just a development account where you can just develop development versions of your app. I want to actually create an iOS distribution app which will let me distribute the app on the Apple App Store. So I selected Apple distribution. If you want to include any other services, you can select something down here. All I want is iOS distribution. So I click continue. I need to browse to my .cer file. I'm sorry, CSR file. Click continue. And that generated a certificate, which I will now download. And it's called iOS distribution.cer. And I'm going to move that to this folder here. And I'm actually going to rename this to mytest2.cer. Okay, so I've got that. So what's the next step? I need to generate a PEM file. So there's another open SSL command, and I could use, I could create another batch file. In fact, I probably will create another batch file for this, but for now, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go into my command line here, and I'm going to hit paste. And I want to change these parameters here. So instead of distribution.cer, it's going to be mytest2.cer. And then I want to give it my app name. And we'll just say mytest2.pem. And if I run that and I go and look in Windows Explorer, there is the PEM file. Okay, so what do we do with the PEM file? Well, we use it to generate a P12 file. Now, you're going to need the P12 file in combination with the provisioning profile that we're going to generate down here in order to set up your cloud build on Unity Cloud Build, because it uses that to sign your application for the Apple App Store. So anyway, I'm going to take this OpenSSL command. I'm going to copy that, go back to my command line, paste it. And so what was my key name again? My key name is mytest2.key. My app name is mytest2.pem. And I want to call this mytest2.p12. And I want to give it a password. Okay, so it has generated a P12 file, and it's password protected. You need to remember that password because you're going to have to use that when you set up your Unity Cloud build. Okay, so what else do we need to do? We need to create an app ID for the game that we want to publish. So we're going to go back into this developer portal, and under identifiers, under app IDs, we want to click the plus sign up here, and we want app IDs, app, and we're going to give it a name. So I'm going to say my test app 2, and then you got to give it a bundle ID, and your bundle ID should be like a reverse domain name. So com.midnightoilsoftware.mytestapp2. Okay, that's just an example. And if you want this app to have any capabilities or access to any special Apple services, you want to select them here. I don't, so I'm just going to leave all of them unchecked, and I'm going to click continue. And then you verify everything, make sure this all looks correct, and you click register. So now I have my test app 2. All right, so what's the next step? we want to generate a provisioning profile. So we navigate to the Profiles tab on that portal. We're going to click plus to add a new profile. Under Distribution, we want to select App Store because this is an App Store distribution. We're going to pick our app ID that we just created from the list. Then we're going to select the certificate that I just created in the previous step and click Continue. We're going to give it a name and click Generate. And then it's going to show us a download button that we can use to download the mobile provision file that we're going to need to set up our Unity Cloud build. So I notice this is a lot of steps. It's not simple. And like I said, after this stream is over, I don't know if I'll get to it today, but sometime in the not too distant future, I'm going to create a web page where I detail all these steps with screenshots and everything to make a really easy to follow tutorial for setting this up. So anyway, let me go back into the portal and I go to Profiles and I'm going to click plus and I want App Store, Continue. I want to pick My Test App 2, which I just created. And then I want to pick, wow, was it this one? I think it was this one. It doesn't really matter as long as it's a valid provisioning name. Now I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it My Test App 2. And it's going to generate a mobile provisioning file, which I can then download. And if I show that in a folder, there it is, My Test App 2.mobile provision. So cool. That is how, those are the steps you need to do initially on your app, in your Apple developer account to create the credentials that you will need to build the app on the Apple App Store. Now I want to go back to our build, which is still running. It says it's still preparing the build environment. Let me refresh that. Yeah, so that's going to take a while. So I'm probably not going to really get to show you all the steps that you would go through. But when this build is done and I would download it, there's an app that I have. I need to find a link for this. I forgot to look that up. I didn't have a lot of time to prep for this stream, but it's called Apple App Uploader. And you want to pick IPA. You're going to upload an IPA file, which is what that Unity Cloud build is going to generate. And then it's going to ask me for my Apple email and password. And then I have to actually enter them and then generate a password that I would use for upload. And I'm not going to do that today because that app's not ready to be uploaded. But that's what I would do to get it to actually upload to the Apple App Store, to the App Store Connect. So once you do that, you'd go into your App Store Connect and you could go into Test Flight. And then you could pick your build that you just submitted. And then you can, on that build, you can actually set it up for external testing, internal testing, and so forth. And then when it's ready to be promoted to production, you could just do that. So there's a lot of steps to that. If I wanted to create a new version here, I would give it the new store version number, and then I would pick the build that I uploaded using that Apple App Uploader utility. In fact, let me search for that. Did I? I'm not sure if that's the right link or not. I will I will go figure out exactly where we need to download that app from, and I will put a link for it in the description. And make sure that I document all the steps for using it to upload your app to the Apple App Store, get it into test flight, invite external testers, invite internal testers, invite external testers, and so forth, and then how you would ultimately promote it to production. I want to document all that to make it as easy as possible for you all to follow. So yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to go much farther today. I guess I will show you how to set up a new app, because that is a process that we need to do. And I can maybe show you a little bit about how you would create a new project here in the dashboard, the Unity dashboard. So you need to create an account up here, obviously, which is beyond the scope. Let's see, projects, create project. So I got one here called test project. I think I'm going to archive that and start over. Create project, my test project 2, create project. Okay, and let's see, explore services. We're going to want to use DevOps here. We're going to go to cloud build. And we're going to want to create a build. We're going to set up a cloud build. Now I use manual. If you use GitHub and you want to just link your project directly to your GitHub, you can do that. But because I'm using VSTS, I have to use manual. And then I have to give it the URL for my repository. So I would basically come into here, like, for example, I have a project I'm working on for my Star Castle prototype. I would go to my repos, I'd go to clone, and I would click SSH, and I would copy that link, and I would come in here and I would paste that URL in here. And I would say git. And then I'd go to access. And it's going to want me to fill out some things I don't have all the information for right now. But you'll at least see how the process works. I definitely want to pick my platform, which is iOS. And I would probably, I don't want to build off master. And yes, by the way, I know that with the master, I should probably rename this branch to main. I know that there's some stuff with Git where users find the name master to be offensive, like master, slave, and they want to change name conventions around that. So I'll probably rename this branch to main instead of master. But what I would probably do is I would create a new branch and I would call it iOS release. Because usually I want to deploy my project to more than one environment. But for now, I'll just leave that as master. You pick which Unity version you want to use. I'll just pick that. And then if you want it to automatically build every time you push to that repo, you leave auto build on. And then it's going to want your credentials. And you're going to have to, if you picked what I did, manual, you're going to have to specify SSH for your signing credentials. But down here, under credentials, you can add new credentials. Let's see. So like here's the credentials that I created, where I had to add a provisioning profile. I'm trying to figure out how do I add a new one here. That will filter it. I should have, like I said, been a year. It's been over a year since I set up my app And so this is new for me to go through this, but I will figure this out post-stream, and I will document this in the web page too, so you can set up your credentials. For now, I could just tell it to use these credentials. I wonder what would happen if I told it to try and build. Yeah, that one has expired credentials. Ah, here we go. Is that what I called it? So this is where I would use that file that I created, and where I would use the P12 file that I created, and then the password. So apparently when I generated that that provision file, I did pick the wrong CSR file, wrong CER file, because they had the same name and they had the same date, and I picked the wrong one. But that's the process you would go through. You would not run into that because you wouldn't have multiple ones with the same name. But that's how you would assign the credentials to your cloud build. Let me just see if my build ever finished. Well, let's see, build history, Nginx iOS. It's been building for 9 minutes. But anyway, you can see the setting up the cloud build is not that complicated. There's just a few steps, and I will create a web page with those steps, and I will add a link to the description with all those steps. The steps for creating all the credentials, the steps for creating the app and the bundle ID and everything in the Apple App Store, and the steps for setting up your Unity cloud build. But as you can see, Nginx is a pretty decent size app, and so average build time is almost half an hour. So it's not going to finish anytime soon. So I think rather than let you all sit here and watch this... Oh, wait a minute. Wow, it finished. As I was telling you, there's no point sitting here watching it. It actually finished. So let's see. I will download that IPA file. Yeah, I was afraid that screen might pop up on my monitor. And I did not want you all to see that. Okay. So I've downloaded this IPA file. That is in my downloads file. All right, so let me go back to the Apple app uploader. I'm going to pick IPA. And I'm going to go ahead and type in this information. Let's see, that's not what I wanted. So I'm getting a message saying that this tool that I downloaded for free has expired. You get it free for a year, and then you got to pay to use it. So once again, we are thwarted in the next step of this application. So I'm going to have to go ahead and get an activation code for this tool so that I can push this build up to the Apple App Store. So this is the joys of publishing to Apple when you don't have a Mac. They really, really want you to use a Mac. You can get around it, but as you can see, it's a bit of a convoluted process. So hopefully this shows you that it can be done, that if you want to publish to the Apple App Store without a Mac, you can do it. And hopefully you found it useful. And if you did, I do once again ask that you please click that like and subscribe button. It's totally free, doesn't cost you a thing, and it really does help me to grow my channel and get this information in front of as many people as I can hopefully benefit from it. And please do drop me a comment. Let me know if you found this information useful, if you had any questions, if you have any suggestions on what I can do to improve it. And yeah, in general, I just would appreciate the encouragement to keep going. So hopefully this will help you on your game development journey, and I hope you enjoyed watching, and have a great day.